Dave Richard, fantasy football expert for CBSSports.com. Good morning, Dave. Happy Week 8 to you.
We're more than halfway through the fantasy regular season. We're almost halfway through the NFL regular season. I hope your teams are surviving and that you're still in the playoff hunt. We're starting to hear from fantasy managers who are no longer in the hunt, and they're already starting to look toward 2024, if you can believe that.
I know, it's crazy, and I'm only excited about maybe 2 of my 7 teams because I've just had awful injuries, and I'm just, I can't win games with backups.
Yeah, you sound like everybody.
Yeah, well, it's legitimate.
He's the fantasy football everyman.
But I do have a question for one of my leagues that I'm 2-5 in the league. All right, I'm not good, but I still have a pretty good lineup in my opinion.
Okay.
But wide receiver 3, would you go McLaurin, Drake London, or Pickens there?
I'd go McLaurin. First of all, I love what I've seen from him over the last several weeks. Not only is he clearly Sam Howell's number 1 guy, but Howell looks to him a lot when he's pressured, and I think he'll be pressured a lot against Philadelphia. And he also has a great track record against the Eagles. If you go back and look at what the numbers are, I think it's like all but 2 or 3 games in his career against Philadelphia, he's had at least 16 PPR fantasy points. It's not exactly that, but it's really, really good. He had over 20 PPR points against them when he played them earlier this year. I'm buying in, and I think that Washington's going to have to throw a lot against the Eagles. So McLaurin to me is a number 2 receiver this week.
Okay.
Dave, a guy I feel like I have to start every week, but I don't love doing it, is James Cook. Now we're going to see him tonight against the Bucs. He had a nice bounce-back game this past week after 2 subpar weeks in weeks 5 and 6. Should I be comfortable rolling out James Cook as like an RB2?
So the problem is, the answer to the question is yes, he's an RB2, but there are so many running backs that are just it's a terrible position right now. You've got like 10 that are really good, and then you've got another, it feels like maybe 5 that are hurt and that you can't count on. They're on IR for whatever reason. And then after that, there's just this glut of really mediocre running back group where they're like around 10 PPR points. Like Rachaad White last week, I think he got to 15 PPR points, and you were thrilled because Rachaad White, you never would expect that from him. Najee Harris scored a touchdown. People were dancing in the streets in Pittsburgh over it. So when you look at those guys, and then you look at James Cook, who's the main running back in Buffalo, capable of catching passes, capable of breaking long runs, and oh, by the way, they're missing a couple pieces in their offense. I gravitate toward him. I think he's a number 2 running back. And then there's another little wrinkle. I always tend to lean toward running backs on a short week. The defenses that they play against, they're beat up, they're tired, they played on Sunday. Collectively, they're worn down. The running back himself, he's got the same game plan every week. He knows what he's got to do every week. He just has to go out there and execute. And so as long as that's the case for James Cook, I can't help but think that he can come through with at least, let's call it 11 PPR points. That's kind of a decent floor. But if he goes for 100 yards and a touchdown, you'll be thrilled that you started him. I'd use him over Joe Mixon this week as an example.
All right, let's go to the phones. 800-636-1067, the MGM National Harbor listener lines. Got a bunch of people lined up to ask Dave Richard a bunch of questions.
All right, let me make sure we lock him in. All right, here we go. Let's go to Jacques. Pastor Jacques got in. Hey, buddy.
Hey, good morning, fellas. How are you guys?
Hey,
Good,
Jacques.
good.
Sweet. Hey, my fantasy Sherpa, I'm in need of some wisdom for this weekend in a half-point PPR. This is my wide receiver situation. I have Josh Downs. I have Josh Palmer. And it even pains me actually to ask this, but do I start either of them over Devonta Smith?
I can't lose faith in Devontae Smith just yet. Yes, last week that would have been the right call to sit Devontae Smith for those guys, and it might have been the right call the week before as well. Smith just hasn't been getting huge numbers, but I can't help but think that they will come. He's a talented receiver. He plays a ton. He's still running a lot of deep routes. What's happening? Well, A.J. Brown is dominating, and everybody knows that, and Dallas Goedert has started to step up. The Eagles have a good run game, and Jalen Hurts has been running. But something happened in their game last week. Jalen Hurts hurt his knee. I wonder if that means he'll run a little bit less and throw a little bit more. Hopefully that leads to some better target opportunities for Devontae Smith. I would sit Downs from that group. I know that he's been exciting, and I'm a big fan of Josh Downs myself. But I think Palmer against Chicago, Devontae Smith against the Commanders, and look at the deep balls that the Commanders have allowed this year. I can't help but take another chance on Devontae Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, good luck,
All right,
Jock.
thanks, buddy.
Sure.
All right, let's go to John in McLean. John, you're on with Dave Richard.
Good morning.
What's up?
Need one PPR, Najee Harris, Amari DeMarcado, DeLeo McLaughlin.
I think it's going to be Najee. I don't love his matchup. And one thing that I actually did in my research this week, I checked to see what type of run scheme has Najee been successful in. And I was actually surprised that there is one that he's been successful in, and it's zone runs. And that happens to be the exact type of scheme that Jacksonville is great against. But I don't think that matters in this case. I think the Steelers are pretty much locked in on Najee being their running downs guy, giving him north of 15 touches per game. That's where he's lived pretty much all year. I am not sure if DeMarcado can get that much work, and even if he does, he's playing Baltimore. That's a tough matchup. So I think you just roll with Najee. I'm not a fan of his this week. I would start Jalen Warren in full PPR ahead of him, but I don't think you have him. I would start Darrell Henderson ahead of him, too, now that he's the Rams' lead running back, or so it seems. But Najee, with the running backs that you gave, that's who I'd start.
Since you're talking about running backs, what happened with Bijan Robinson last week? What's the fallout, and what do we expect?
He apparently, I mean, I know what you guys know, which is he apparently had some severe headaches the day of the game, maybe even the night before the game, and just couldn't go. The Falcons decided to just use him sparingly. And this week he's practicing. He says he's going to be fine. The Falcons say he's going to be fine. And so I'm going right back to him as an RB1, expecting him to get me north of 15 PPR points. And hopefully he does it, and hopefully he's okay. I mean, the number one concern is he okay? We care about these people as human beings. And then if he's okay and that's great, then we're just going to chalk it up to he had just a terrible situation, and hopefully it never happens again.
Dave, I told Jason in a fit of anger during one of the breaks that going forward, starting next year, I'm fading Falcons as long as Arthur Smith is the head coach, because I just can't trust him for the way he utilizes his players. I have to stay away from Falcons. Do you kind of agree with that or no?
Well, the very first problem is that his quarterback choice isn't that good. He's got Desmond Ridder, who turned the ball over 3 times last week inside the 10.
Right.
Those are scoring opportunities that could have gone, throw a dart. It could have hit anybody. 3 different opportunities for a Falcons player to score a touchdown. That would have helped. And like he's had some good connections with Drake London. He's had some good games with Kyle Pitts. I know that he likes throwing to Kyle Pitts, but you line him up against most of the quarterbacks in this league, and he's not great. He's the problem in Atlanta. If they had a better quarterback, I'd feel a lot better about the Falcons. As for the play calling and for the usage, I think Arthur Smith is actually smart about it because he's trying to use as many different guys as he can. That forces defenses to prepare for as many different problems as they can possibly do, and it makes it hard on defenses when you've got 7 guys who can contribute to an offense in a given week. It does stink for fantasy, though. And so if he is the head coach there and still the play caller, and they don't improve on quarterback this coming offseason, then, yeah, I could follow your advice, too.
You know who's terrible, who sucks? Josh Jacobs. He's given me more than 11 points twice this year. He sucks. But I got nobody else. I got to play him.
I think you have to, because he's one of those rare running backs that gets 20 touches per game.
Right.
And when Garoppolo's back, I would expect him to get a lot of catches still. And look, there have been so many problems in Las Vegas. First of all, he held out at training camp. When he did come back, clearly he wasn't ready to go. The offensive line isn't any better. Garoppolo under center, I don't think that's much of an upgrade over Derek Carr, if there's one at all. But at least he's getting targets there. He's not scoring nearly as much, nor is he as efficient as he was last year. And we can chalk that up to all of the things that I just told you. At least the coaching staff is running him into the ground, which is a nice thing for us, maybe not for him. And then we'll see where he ends up after this season. But I think the combination of the holdout, the offensive line not getting better, and the quarterback play, maybe daring defenses, I should say defenses daring for the Raiders to run on them, I think that's worked against Jacobs too.
All right, let's go back to the phones. 800-636-1067 is the number.
Let's go to Jake in Fredericksburg. Hey, Jake.
Hey, good morning, guys.
What's up?
Hey, buddy. You're on with Dave Richard.
Hey, real quick, I've got Darrell Henderson or Brian Robinson in a flex spot, half-point PPR.
I go with Henderson. And Robinson, it's about the matchup against Philadelphia. I think it's going to be tough for him. I think that the Commanders are going to have to throw. They're going to have to ride the arm of Sam Howell. And I actually think the Commanders, they always put up a fight against Philadelphia, don't they? I think they've been blown out like once in the last 5 years, something like that. So I think that they'll give Philly a fight. And I think the Eagles' defense, I don't think it's quite as good as people make it out to be. They've got some great players, and adding Kevin Byard is going to be huge for them. But I don't think they're the shutdown unit, at least against the pass, that I think people have made them out to be. Against the run, I think they're pretty good. Henderson's going to split with Royce Freeman in L.A., but he was a little bit better, and he's a little bit better in passing situations as well. So I would expect him to get the lion's share of the work again this week in a tough matchup against Dallas.
All right, let's sneak one more in before we start the speed round.
Let's go to
Prepare
David
everybody.
in Sterling. Hey, David.
Good morning, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, pal.
So I have two quick questions here. One, it's full PPR, need one out of the three. Jonathan Taylor, T. Higgins, Chris Godwin. Jonathan Taylor last week kind of showed me a little bit. And then the second question is, preface this with I drafted Justin Fields and Anthony Richardson. So now I get to start either Howell or Minshew. Which one would you choose?
I would use Howell this week against Philadelphia. I don't like Minshew's matchup against New Orleans this week, but I would go with Minshew next week if Fields isn't back by then. And Jonathan Taylor is your must-start flex until further notice, man. He looked great last week. We saw him getting better and better ever since he came back, and last week was the breakout week. I think he's going to continue to pull away from Zach Moss in terms of touches.
All right, good luck going forward. All right, speed round time. No small talk, no stammering, no Bluetooth allowed, no dumb questions. Use a player's full name if he has a common name like Smith, Williams, Wilson, Thomas, Tagovailoa, or DeMercado. Don't argue with Dave. He is the expert. He's a savant. He's all-knowing.
All right.
Thank you.
Mike, speed round, go.
Adams or Myers for Vegas?
It's Adams over Myers for now.
Joe, speed round, go. Brian, speed round, go. All right, not there. Eddie, speed round, go.
Sam Howell, Sam Darnold, sacks way more than touchdowns.
Sam Howell.
Eric Chantilly, go.
Olave, Flowers, or Jacoby Myers?
I think I might take Myers over Olave.
Go to Brian. Speed round, go.
Ayuk or McLaurin?
McLaurin.
Love we get the youth involved, Cakes. Benny, speed round, go.
2 out of 3, Rashad White, Pacheco, or Brian Robinson?
I would go with Pacheco and Rashad White if it's PPR.
Kyler, speed round, go.
2 of 5, Zach Moss, Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs, Gus Edwards, Kareem Hunt.
Josh Jacobs and Gus Edwards.
Still don't know how Dave does it. I always forget.
Go to Beth. Speed round, go.
3 out of 5, DJ Moore, Christian Kirk, Thielen, Deontay Johnson, or T. Higgins?
Sillies.
The first 3.
Ooh, there you
Go.
go.
Good morning.
Go to Ron. Speed round, go.
Hurts or Kurt Cousins?
Hurts.
He said
Hurts.
All right, let's go to Sam. Speed round, go.
2 of 4, Amari DiMarcardo, Craig Reynolds, Tyler Board, Rasheed Rice. Gotta say what's up to my boy Jermaine.
What's up, Jermaine?
That is
gonna get an answer?
flaw in our system
Yeah.
where they sneak in the small
We're
talk
going to have to
after.
get tough on
Well,
them.
Dave-
We might have to make a
Loophole.
we might have to make a rule adjustment.
Dave might
Because
not answer the question.
Yeah.
also the 5, like 2 of 5.
Yeah,
that's
it's a little extensive.
yeah, it's getting extensive.
Excessive?
Excessive. Yeah.
Right.
But what about Jermaine?
Jermaine has to do without his shout-out.
Go to Kyle.
He's gotten 3 of them already.
Speed round, go.
More sharp.
He said,
Okay,
Hey,
not gonna work.
Kyle
Hey,
Dees lives for that.
Hey,
Four-way
Dave.
hands.
He really does.
Dave Laporta, Goddard.
I believe I have Goddard over Laporta this week. Yes, I do.
Wow. Okay.
we almost threw a perfect game.
Yep. Dave, thank you as always. Happy week 8. I hope you go, 23-0. You probably have 23 teams. I don't even know how many you have.
I think I'd be dead if I have 23. I think I have 15 teams. I think
Okay.
that's the count.
All right.
That's a
The
pretty
goal
big
is
number.
go 15
One of them
and
is 1 and 6. The rest of them are all in the hunt. So it's a good year so far.
All right, we'll talk to you again next week. Follow him on Twitter if you're not already, at Dave Richard. Thanks again, buddy.
And it looks like
Later,
DePompa
yo.
is retired like Mad Dog Russo.
It seems that way. Yeah, it seems like that's the case.
I inadvertently retired.
Yeah, you put him out to pasture.
I didn't mean to. I wasn't even trying to be mean. I was just a little bit defensive when he just taking shots at me.
Just kind of happened. These things happen sometimes.
I like him.
We'll have to see what happens in the future.
He's a nice guy.